My name is Camille. I'm the founder and director of the Stop campaign. So I'm just going to talk like 15 minutes about the campaign, where it started, what's happening now, and then we're going to see the trailer, and then we have heaps of performances, which is awesome. So before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, in which we meet today. And also like to acknowledge that this land has never been surrendered, always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So also a content warning, some of this might be a bit heavy with some statistics and stories and things being read out throughout. So just a general content warning for the event today. So please feel free to step out whenever you want. That's totally fine as well. Cool. So, it's been suggested by many that Australia has a problem with sexual violence, and that it's inclusive of our university culture. Around 11,000 students at Australian universities are sexually assaulted every single year, and that's actually about how many undergraduate students we have at ANU. So, every undergraduate student here, basically. And ANU has the second highest rating of sexual assault on campus in the whole of Australia across 39 universities. Roughly 30 students are sexually assaulted in a university setting every single day in Australia, and in 2016, 831 ANU students, who are your friends, your colleagues, your acquaintances, your classmates, were assaulted. So we have to shift our community towards a culture of consent. It's the whole point of the campaign, is that we're addressing this issue. And it's also really important to be an effective bystander and listening to people's stories. So thanks so much for coming today. Awareness campaigns play a really important role in this by spreading information about safeties, boundaries, how to be an effective bystander, what sex positive practice looks like, speaking up for others, and just being a general good role model. University or college social events are the most likely setting in an Australian context where sexual assault will occur. So we need to look out for each other and have positive attitudes about sex and not be afraid to talk about it. We need to keep having difficult conversations and encourage positive sexual interaction, which is exactly what our Zine project is aiming to do. And I think campaigns are a good way to do this. So, the Stop campaign is a student-led movement empowering people to create and sustain positive change in Australian universities by breaking down stigmas surrounding sex and sexual violence through social activism and education. We envision a world where the statistics that I just mentioned don't exist. They stop. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the campaign, where it originated from, why we did it, and how far we've come. Keep in mind, we actually don't have a full team right now, so we're still on a long journey. We're also still trying to define our purpose and where we sit in the ANU context and Australian universities. So just keep that in mind. So I founded the campaign last year when I was at Fenner Hall, and I really tried to push it within the hall first and create connections there. All of the people that you see in the videos from the Revealing Truths and Breaking Stigmas project have lived at Fenner Hall at some point in time. And I find it really amazing that such a community has been so on board with the campaign. Despite some backlash, I've received a lot more positivity and thanks in general, which is great. I'm very grateful for the Fenner community and its persistence to be a part of the change. And I've noticed that there are actually a lot of Fenner Hall people here today, so thanks for coming. The campaign's focus is to create awareness on how this issue affects everyone and how we're all a part of a society that has the ability to talk about these issues, normalise it, and make positive change in eliminating sexual violence. So, when I started the campaign, it went something like this. I was really, really angry and frustrated that so many people were disclosing to me or asking me, this happened, was I assaulted? notably by women, and a lot of it was at their past, but a lot of it was also at university. I feel like the Human Rights Commission report that did come out in 2017 helped people question what happened, and it helped them talk about it. But obviously it wasn't enough, and people still didn't understand that it was assault. So I basically decided that this wasn't good enough, and I went and spoke to the administration at my hall. I spoke to some of my peers, notably Jasmine Jury, the head of hall at the time, and I asked her, what can we do? What can we do to help residents think that sexual violence isn't normal and it isn't a part of the Australian university experience, and that it's not okay? The mentality by so many survivors is that it's okay, like it only happened once, I just need to get over it, it's so normal. And the excuses by many of the perpetrators is that it's not that bad and it's normal as well. So it's kind of the same mentality on both sides. And anything but an enthusiastic yes means no, and that's really important as well. So from the beginning, I was concerned with awareness. I thought that awareness would be the key. I felt as though spreading knowledge about sexual violence and positive sex practice was key to get the campaign off the ground and just to start it. So I wrote out a 10-point pledge, which stands as something that's symbolic to hold yourself personally accountable. So it doesn't mean you're actually signing a petition that's going to go anywhere, it's just for yourself. Then I thought that that wasn't good enough, or we weren't getting enough traction, and that we needed something with the community. So we did an artwork pledge, and over 100 Fenner students painted a heart, and now it's going to be in what is now known as Gallery Hall, hopefully for a very long time. I did some research into what other campaigns were doing, and if you've heard of NREG on Campus Australia, they have a photo campaign, or they did, and basically it was students holding up, they would written down how they'd been betrayed by their university administration and what happened there. So I thought that was a really good idea. They were spreading it on Instagram and things, it was getting a lot of traction. I noticed some ANU students got involved as well. But I thought if we're going to do something in our home, we should put a positive twist on it. So basically, I asked participants to write what they would say to a survivor if they were to disclose to them, or how they perceive survivors. To paint it out using any creative medium and then hold it up, and we had a photo wall in Fenner for quite a few months. And that was really symbolic for myself, because none of it was prompted, but a lot of what people said was, I believe you, you're still beautiful no matter what. It was very reinforcing, so that was really symbolic for me. And then when it came down to expanding to the wider ANU community, I thought that we needed to make something special and something empowering for survivors of sexual violence, and that is what came to be the Revealing Truths and Breaking Stigmas video series and the zine. And the whole point of it was to start to break down these barriers and destigmatize the shame that comes along with that. So I am so proud of every single person that decided to take part in the project. A lot of them are anonymous, and a lot of them I don't actually know who they are. But I feel like we should feel nothing less for those people. And also recognise that these people are people, despite that they've shared their story, they're not defined by their story, and that their decision to speak out, whether anonymous or not, is just awesome. I think it's really amazing. So this scene may be very small, as you've probably noticed, but it does bring to light the challenges that we face as a community, and by normalising the discussion of sexual violence and positive sex practice, we can start to have these difficult conversations. Sharing stories and listening to those stories is a very powerful way to communicate. Statistically speaking, every single person in this room is affected by sexual violence in one way or another. Every single person in this room would know a survivor. Every single person in this room probably knows a perpetrator as well. And everyone has a story. And when people hear other people's stories, it can actually help you resonate with your own personal lived experience as well. So today, one of the main purposes of the campaign has been to empower survivors to share their stories, safely, of course, and I understand that healing can be really, really hard, and I want to make it clear that to all the survivors who did not share their story, they're all just as deserving of love, respect, belief, and validity. I actually shared my story on camera. If you've seen the video project, it's not there. I found it really daunting, but at the same time, it was really empowering and I really enjoyed saying it. But when I watched it, I knew that I wasn't ready to post it, and that's also okay. So for me, it wasn't safe to share it, and that's fine. And I want to make it really clear that people who are not ready to share their stories are just as valid and real as anybody else. Also, I don't need to be at the forefront of the campaign to advocate for the cause. You don't need to do, just because you're an advocate doesn't mean you need to do what you're encouraging other people to do, if it works for them. So it's been a really long journey as an advocate to date in this space, raising awareness about the effects of sexual violence and trauma. And as a survivor myself, what this movement means to me and so many others is immeasurable. We've sparked conversations surrounding sexual violence, consent, sex positivity, and what trauma can look like for different people. And this event here is a really, really, really huge step towards destigmatising activism in this space as well. Moments of celebration like this aren't just important for me, but for all survivors who have been silenced over and over again. And we're making steps for change despite how small, and it's not easy, but we'll get there. So thank you to the survivors and activists for being super strong. There's also a lot of activists in the room, I can see that. And thank you for everyone coming to participate in the event, even if you're just popping in for a second. And it's amazing to see so many people willing to celebrate with us, and I'm very, very grateful for how far we've come. Very briefly, we've got a screen up there, and I'm just going to show the trailer in case you haven't seen any of the videos. So basically the zine and the video series, most of them the same story.